Hi everyone, welcome to week 5 of distance learning. This week we are learning about unit rates and how to convert between different measurements. So last week you learned about rates and unit rates. The previous week we learned about ratios. I'm going to do a quick review of unit rates in this video to make sure that you understand what they are and how to find them. What is a unit rate? A unit rate is a rate that describes how many units of one quantity correspond to 1 unit of another quantity. So you'll recall that a ratio is just a comparison between two quantities. A rate is a kind of ratio that is a comparison between two quantities when those two quantities are different units. So it's really a comparison between quantities with different measurements. And a unit rate is when we take a rate and we make that comparison so that we just have one quantity of the second unit. So here's some common examples of unit rates. We might think about driving our car in miles per hour. This is a unit rate because it's how many miles we can drive in 1 hour. Your car mileage is based on miles per gallon. That's how many miles your car can drive on 1 gallon of gas. When you go to the gas station, you purchase your gas, the price is listed as a cost per gallon, how much it costs for 1 gallon of gas. Again, this is a unit rate because we're comparing the first quantity to just one unit of the second quantity. You might get paid in money per hour, money per week, money per month. So if you make an hourly wage, then on your paycheck, you would have a larger amount, but it would also list how much money you make per hour. That's a unit rate because it's for 1 hour. If you go to the store, you might think about purchasing something and maybe you want to get multiple items. Well, you would think about the cost per item. So how much does it cost for one item? Well, then you could figure out how much it costs for more than one item. Similarly, if you were in the grocery store or something, you're getting deli meat or produce, it might be priced in price per pound. How much does it cost for 1 pound of this thing? And then you could figure out how much it will cost for other amounts. Maybe you run track and field and your speed is measured in meters per second, or you do long jump and it's measured in feet per second, or whatever it may be. Again, this is just an example of a unit rate because it's for 1 unit of the second quantity. So these are several examples. I'm sure you could think of even more at home. Now let's make sure we understand how to find unit rates. Nathan does push-ups for the same amount of time every day. He does 9 minutes of push-ups in 3 days. Let's underline that so we remember this information. How many minutes of push-ups does Nathan do in 7 days? Make a table to show the relationship between the number of minutes and the number of days. Well, we know that Nathan does 9 minutes of push-ups in 3 days, and we could write a ratio to represent this. 9 minutes to 3 days. Because these two quantities are comparing different units, we can write this ratio as a rate. Remember, we can always write ratios like fractions, and when we're writing rates, it's really, really helpful to visualize them as fractions. So we want to write our rates like this. So we could write the rate 9 minutes per 3 days, and we could also write it like this. We could say there's 9 over 3 minutes per day. That's simply because the unit of the quantity in the numerator is minutes and the unit of the quantity in the denominator is in days. Now what we want to do is simplify this rate, or you could think about it as just doing the division involved in our fraction. So our fraction tells us that we're going to be doing 9 divided by 3. I know that 9 divided by 3 is 3. You could also write it out like this. We want to simplify it. And we want to figure out how many minutes he does in 1 day. So I'm going to simplify like this. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So he does 3 minutes of push-ups in 1 day. Or we could write he does 3 minutes of push-ups per day. Okay, So we were given a rate, and then we were able to figure out the unit rate from that information by figuring out how much he does in just one day. Now, there are two things that this question asks us. It asks us to make a table to show the relationship between the number of minutes and the number of days, and then it asks us how many minutes of push-ups Nathan does in 7 days. So let's start by making a table. In our table, we are going to be comparing minutes of push-ups to days. And ultimately, we want to know how many minutes he does in 7 days, so I need to have 7 boxes. All right. We already figured out that the unit rate is 3 minutes of push-ups in 1 day. Our given information is that in 3 days, he does 9 minutes of push-ups, so we already know that. Now let's use our unit rate to come up with equivalent rates for other numbers of days. So on day 1, we know that the unit rate is 3 minutes. Well, on day 2, he's going to have done twice the number of minutes of push-ups. So 2 times 3 is 6 minutes of push-ups on 2 days. For 3 days, he's going to do 3 times as many. So 3 times 3 is 9 minutes of push-ups on 3 days. 4 days will be 4 times as many. 3 times 4 is 12 minutes of push-ups. 5 days will be 5 times as many. 5 times 3 is 15 minutes of push-ups. 6 days will be 6 times as many. 6 times 3 is 18 minutes of push-ups. 7 days will be 7 times as many. 7 times 3 is 21 minutes of push-ups. And finally, our question says, how many minutes of push-ups does Nathan do in 7 days? Well, by finding our unit rate and then creating a table of equivalent rates, we can see that Nathan will do 21 minutes of push-ups in 7 days. All right, let's do one more example of finding unit rate. Students are knitting scarves for a fundraiser. Elaine can knit 4 scarves in 20 days. Mario can knit 2 more scarves than Elaine can in 40 days. What is the difference in the time it takes each of them to knit a scarf? Explain your answers. Okay, so let's start with Elaine. We know that Elaine can knit 4 scarves in 20 days. So right now, the way I've set up this rate is scarves per day. Well, it takes us more days than the number of scarves. So we're really going to be taking multiple days to knit 1 scarf. So maybe we could write this the other way. We could say that it takes 20 days. Whoops. We could say that it takes 20 days to knit 4 scarves. So if it takes 20 days to knit 4 scarves, well, how many days per scarf does it take? Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5. So for Elaine, it takes 5 days per scarf. All right, now let's look at Mario. For Mario, we were not given a rate like we were for Elaine. Instead, we were told that in 40 days, Mario can knit Elaine's number, so I'll put E number, plus 2 more scarves. So let's figure out how many scarves Elaine could knit in 40 days. If she can do 4 scarves in 20 days, 20 times 2 is 40 days. And I just keep an equivalent rate by multiplying both numerator and denominator by the same thing. So 4 times 2 is 8 scarves. So in 40 days, Elaine can knit 8 scarves. So what that means for Mario is that in 40 days, he can knit Elaine's number, which is 8, plus 2. So for Mario, he can knit 10 scarves in 40 days. All right, so we know this is his rate. It takes 40 days for 10 scarves. Now we want to figure out his unit rate. So if it takes him 40 days for 10 scarves, well, 40 divided by 10 is 4. So it takes him 4 days per scarf. All I did was divide 40 by 10. All right, so we know it takes Elaine 5 days per scarf, and now we figured out it takes Mario 4 days per scarf. And the question says, what is the difference in the time it takes each of them to knit a scarf? Well, Elaine's 5 days, Mario's 4 days. That tells me it takes Elaine 1 more day to knit each scarf. All right, and there we go. So you can solve real-world problems using unit rates, and then there might be questions that ask you a little bit more, like this one. So using your knowledge of unit rates, you might be asked to compare something. Now that we have reviewed unit rate, how to find unit rate, and how to solve unit rate problems, I need you to go complete the unit rate quizzes that I assigned you on Microsoft Teams. That is your first assignment for the week. If you need help at all, please just message me on Microsoft Teams and I will help you. You can always join me during office hours from 1 to 2 p.m. every school day. And you can also retry the quizzes if you want to try the questions multiple times. So just reach out if you need help, and remember to always make the rest of your day the best of your day. I love you guys. Bye.